With 43,452 towns and villages in the UK, how do you assess the market and pick the best one to invest in? Whenever you're assessing anything in economics, we need to assess macro and microeconomic environments. What does that mean? Well, kind of what it is. Macro, big, larger than, outside of. Micro, more niche into it. So macroeconomic factors, there are a lot. Unemployment rates as an example, inflation, interest rates, movement, what's going on around the world, the pound versus the dollar, and so much more. The main two I think that you should be focusing on if we want to keep things simple, which we do for this video, is interest rates and inflation. If you've been watching this channel for a while, then you already know I use the analogy of a car. And if you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe and the notification bell. So in general, interest rates are the brake in the car or of the world or of the country, and inflation is the accelerator. So when you're measuring economic growth, that is inflation. Basically, the higher the inflation, the faster the economy is moving. Inflation isn't good or bad, by the way. It's an indicator. So often when inflation is really high, there's so much demand in comparison to supply. Now, the reason to think about this in terms of why is it important and what's good and what's bad is typically 2 to 4% inflation is actually okay. 2% is target, but by the way, target is absolute bullshit of where it even come from. It was completely plucked out of the air a few years back, and then it just stuck around the world, by the way, as target inflation. Not the video for it. Unless you want it to be, let me know in the comments and I'll make one for you. Anyway, so inflation is the accelerator. Now, it's all good. We want to build momentum. We want to get to the destination faster, right? It kind of is the economic race of the world to the focal destination, but we're all in a race to nowhere, right? So inflation is good. However, inflation when it's about 2-3%, it's fairly logical that the reason we're there is because we're relatively strong and the demand is naturally growing. However, when inflation is more like 7%, 10%, etc., that really is because it can be demand is crazy high, but often it's a mix of demand's really high and we just struggle as a country from an infrastructure point of view to keep up with supply. So think of this as we're just speeding and we're a bit erratic and we're getting out of control. And so you know when you lose control of your car a little bit and you're like, oh, that gave me a bit of scare. That's kind of that level of inflation. So it's too much growth. And the growth in that sense doesn't always mean growing. It could mean we're shrinking, but we're growing because we're keeping under supply. Make sense? So what do? Well, often you take your foot off the brake a little bit and then apply the brake to slow yourself back down and go, whew, chill out a little bit. Now, unfortunately, we can't just go, hey guys, we're going a bit fast. Should we just take our foot off the accelerator? Just recollect. Just stop for a few weeks, everyone, and then let's reassess and then apply. No, it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, we have to pull on the brake, which is where the interest rates come in. So inflation is an outcome of activity. Interest rates is a very deliberate move by the Bank of England to stem the growth of the economy to get more stabilization. Savvy? What's good interest rates? What's bad interest rates? Well, at the moment, we have very normal interest rates. What, Jamie? Interest rates are absolutely crazy right now. No, they're not. You just don't understand where interest rates are meant to be. Interest rates between 4 and 6% is completely fine. It's completely stable. It's just you're so used to a country or a world where interest rates are 0.5. Fuck all, right? In some areas of the world, they have negative interest rates, so they will pay you to take money, right? That's not normal. How could you possibly think that would be normal economics? 4 to 6%, absolutely fine. The reason it feels a bit stressful right now is because they haven't been. And so the problem is most people don't actually assess the long term, even when making long-term investments. For example, property. Hey, I'm making a 20-year investment. Wouldn't it be a good idea to understand how interest rates actually look over a 20 to 30-year time frame? Said fucking no one. What most people do is go, hey, interest rates are only 1.2% for my loan. Let's base decisions on that. A little bit empty, but let's get back to reality. So the thing is, You're used to a world where it costs fuck all to borrow money. Now it costs a little bit. Not a crazy amount, by the way, a little bit. 4 to 6%, absolutely fine. Now, what then happens is you have a short to medium term period, typically 6 to 12 months, where everything has to adjust around that. For example, there'll be temporary measures where we buy less. Check out the Rightmove stats. We started doing that a few months back. Then people get used to it and start picking up again. Look at the growth year on year. We have a positive growth in the UK, believe it or not, despite the last 12 months. And then what happens is rents start going up to factor in the increased cost of owning a house. And that happens for 2 reasons. Number one, people that wanted to buy a house are now further away from being able to do it, so now they need to rent, reducing the amount of people buying and increasing the amount that people are renting. At the same time, it makes it less worthwhile for buy-to-let landlords, so a load of buy-to-let landlords sell off, and at the same time, the rents then need to go up. So the supply of housing goes down for rentals, the need for rental goes up, basic economics, supply down, demand up, prices up. Fairly standard. And again, look at your own stats for your area of rentals, and I can near guarantee it's gone up in the last 12 months. Now you might think, oh my God, this is great. No, pretty basic economics is basic concepts that people don't really think about. So inflation, good at a certain rate. My opinion, 2 to 4%. Interest, good if it's between 0 to 4%, and any less than that, nice short-term win, but be prepared for some pain later. Now, you can get something called hyperinflation. Think Argentina and some other areas in the world where you've got money and it means fuck all. But basically, in the short of it, when inflation is higher than 2%, do not have cash. Get it into assets. If it's higher than 4%, get it the fuck out your bank as soon as possible and get it invested in a stable asset. I don't know, let's say property, for example. Interest rates, you're absolutely fine. But if interest rates are like 10% plus, we've got some big problems. Even at 7 to 8%, it's a bit hard, but not the end of the world. Anything 6% sub, you're golden. That's the general macroeconomic environment. Then we got micro. So the micro environment, you need to look at price analysis. In general, when I'm looking at price analysis, I'm looking at the average property in the UK, 300,000 give or take, depending on where you get the information from. And then you've got your local area. So in my investment spots, they're going to be about 150,000. Why is this? Well, your median figure is something you want to stay below. Now, in general, everything goes towards that figure. So if you think about the line, everything goes towards it, which means when there's a recession and prices go down, which by the way, it doesn't mean the economy's gone down 10%, therefore property goes down 10%. It doesn't work like that, okay? You still got basic economics. Demand for property is here, supply is here. If demand for property goes to here and supply is there, it doesn't suddenly mean massive price decreases because demand is still higher than supply. Hopefully that makes sense. But so many people think a recession means property prices have to come down. That is not factually correct at all. In fact, usually anyway, we're not going to go into that level of economics. So when we've got this price, everything kind of moves towards it. And in a recession, what happens is everything above that line tends to fall higher in prices, and anything below that line is relatively stable. I always use a tree analogy that anything on that line or below is the tree trunk. Yes, it can get damaged, but it's a pretty stable beast the bigger the tree. Anything way higher than that, they're like the leaves on the end of the branches. They're going to feel the most impact. Hopefully that makes sense and it's not just logical in my brain. So then when you understand that, in my area, I'm going to be searching for 110 to 140,000 pound properties because logically they are solid. They're going to be good for first time buyers, for investors, for upsizers, for downsizers and everything in between. But you need to look at your local. So in your area, if everything is 400,000, then you're going to apply that. If everything in your area is 80,000, then you need to apply that. Just a quick tip, I don't invest in anything sub 80k, it just doesn't make financial sense in the long term. But that is a microeconomic factor. Another thing's going to be your local SHLA. Yes, it is called SHLA. Basically, your development plan is the best thing. So you got your SHLA, your local development plan, and you want to look what investment is going in from a residential, industrial, and commercial angle. Just think logically about this. If there is a new cinema complex and shopping centre going in. What the fuck do you think's going to happen? Well, the values are going to go up. How can you say that, Jamie? Well, let's see. A shopping centre is going to create what? Jobs. When there are jobs in the thousands created in an area, what's that going to have? More people coming to the area. When there's more people coming to the area, what does that mean? Way more demand than supply. When there's way more demand than supply for residential properties, what does that mean? Government intervention to develop what, Jamie? More houses, more infrastructure, more hospitals, more complexes, more local shops where you can get your food. Oh my God, there's a new town. Shock, horror. Why is it always a fucking surprise when people go, I didn't see this coming? It's like, really? Because you could have gone on the government fucking website and known this 10 years ago and bought some property. The more you do your research, the more you understand your area. And by the way, if you actually want to use the context of this video and find out my top 3 areas for 2024, you can check out this video and I'll put a link in the description. I'm going to give you a little tip of what to look out for in the areas. If there's any plans for hospitals, that is a major indication for town expansion. So for example, in the Leeds area, we've got the South Bank development. 350 football pitches. It's the second largest residential development in Europe ever. There's going to be hospitals. It's a full extension of the town. The other tip I would give you is build to rent. Build to rent is exactly what it is. Developers deciding on an institutional level, by the way. Property's not dying, it's going institutionalized. You've got pensions doing it. Legal and General is the South Bank development, for example. What the fuck? 350 football pitches. And they are doing build to rent. What does that mean? Well, you might go, well, there's going to be so many rentals. It's like, yeah, they're upselling. So, for example, in the South Bank development, a 2-bed house you can rent for about £700 right now. If you got a 2-bed flat in one of these developments in the same area, you will pay way over £1,000. Crazy, right? That's without a car park space. You've got to pay extra for that. And then you've got to pay charges on top of that, okay? So whenever there's significant build to rent, you can pretty much guarantee the investment value of your properties. For example, in this South Bank development, I bought properties at 60, 70k way back when. They're now 130k. I'm still buying at 130k. I will be interested in 10 years filming this. It would not shock me if it goes past £300,000 in that area. What? Absolutely crazy. The more infrastructure there is, you need to make sure you're measuring it because it's going to dictate the values. Now, obviously this is a YouTube video. I can only give the basics of this. If you are at that stage where you're watching one of these videos, it shows me that you're genuinely serious about making property a part of your future. And that might be on the passive side. You've got money you want to invest. Great, you can get in touch with us to help build that portfolio. But if you're watching this and you're wanting to go this nerdy and you actually want to know for sure the best investment areas for you and your investors, maybe it is time to invest in your education. If you've been watching me for a while, you buy into me, you believe I can help you, put education in the comments. We're opening up some free one-to-one consultation sessions. There's no payment needed at all. It's really just to understand where you're at right now, where you want to get to. And if we can help you, we'll tell you how we can approach that with our educational programs. As I said, if you're ready to back yourself and invest in yourself, put education in the comments. I'll also put a link in the comments. I'll link it to the top so you can, or pin it to the top so you can click on there, fill in your details, and I look forward to having that one-to-one session with me or one of my team and really helping you build your investment portfolio and going all in on property in 2024. As I said, if you want me to deep dive in anything that I've said, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell. Put a comment below what you want me to create for you, because ultimately this YouTube channel is for you, not for me. I will do videos around it. Make sure you are subscribed, hit the like. It takes 2 seconds, but really does help me out for the YouTube algorithm. Smash the like button and I'll see you in the next video.